Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Super Bowl Sunday. How many of you are watching the Super Bowl? I have it on the background, but I am not paying attention. However, I do see some crazy things happening. Of all the people on the team, Travis Kelce, I guess, has too many booster shots and decided that he's going to assault his coach. I mean, look at this. I mean, he literally assaults him. I think he knocked his clipboard down. Had to get pulled away by one of his teammates. But, you know, what's kind of crazy is somebody called it Pfizer Vax Rage. Instead of roid rage, Vax Rage. But he came in. I mean, how can you take a guy seriously? How can you take a guy seriously when he walks into the stadium looking like this? Gnarly Gagger. I'm not sure how to say your name. Gnarly Gagger. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Bonnie, thank you. It looks like you're from YouTube. But look at this guy. I wasn't really going to talk about the Super Bowl, but I couldn't help myself, especially when everything has to revolve around this guy, Killa Trav, walking in like he's a badass, even though he's a bitch to Pfizer, and then assaults his coach. I mean, that's crazy. Really wild. But anyway, welcome. Those of you who are watching, are you watching the Super Bowl as well, or have you decided that we're kind of done with this whole thing? I mean, I turned on. I guess what is it on CBS? I turned it on for literally a minute or two pregame. I'm thinking probably around 4:00 or so, because of course they have all the stuff leading up to the game, and as soon as I turned it on, they were talking about this woman who was making like football clothing. I don't know whether it was out of actual footballs, but it looked like football leather. Still have that cough, by the way. I'm getting over a nasty cold. But anyway, she was making football clothing, and it, of course, caught the attention of Taylor Swift. And so I immediately had to turn it off and knew right away that this is just not something I was going to be paying attention to for the rest of the evening. I might have it on in the background like I do now, but I'm pretty much over with it. It's kind of one of those things where there's really nothing else on television. But now it's just become so commercialized and so ridiculous. And I think they're getting so desperate now. That's why they're putting in this whole Travis Kelce relationship with Taylor Swift. And but I'll come back to the Super Bowl a little bit later. But one of the things I want to discuss tonight is something way more important, in my humble opinion, than sports, and that's the death and destruction, really, of our legal system. And not enough people are really talking about this, and it is the major, in my opinion, major reason why the country is falling apart. Because once we lose the legal system, that's it. And we are losing the legal system. Our one last hope right now is the the Supreme Court. And we have to hope that this case related to Colorado, when it goes to the Supreme Court, is going to go in the direction of Donald Trump. But if it doesn't, that's it. There's nowhere else you can go. And this all needs to end. And one of the things that prompted me to discuss this was, I mean, I've been talking about this for a very long time, and to me is one of the most important things to talk about. But today, Donald Trump had posted something on his Truth Social about Letitia James. And I'm going to get into more detail of what I mean by this in lawfare and the legal system, how it's been weaponized, because it is an actual thing. Lawfare is an important subject and an important discussion to have. And it bothers me a lot that people are just more concerned with silly things like the Super Bowl and silly things like other sports and whatever's going on in their daily life, and not paying attention to the fact that all of this is going to affect us ultimately, all of us. And if we don't have a legal system, and then below the legal system, good people in law enforcement, which we don't have anymore or have very, very few, then we have nothing left. And that's what the communists want, is they want to destroy America by destroying the legal system and then having the law enforcement work in their direction. So this is a video that shows, now the volume's going to kind of go up and down. It's a little annoying, so I'll do the best I can to adjust it while it plays. But this is an interview that was done by Samantha Bee. And those of you who don't know who Samantha Bee is, she's a leftist psycho who was, I think she was on Comedy Central at one point, which was a show that was canceled. This is an older video too. This is back in like 2020. And Samantha Bee is obviously a Trump hater. Had choice words about Ivanka Trump. That's how she was kind of what she was known for. And, you know, of course, another one of the TDS type people, kind of like a female Keith Olbermann, just really whacked out.
And resist this man!
When he leaves office as a private citizen, he will no longer have presidential immunity.
Can we actually get him?
The New York Attorney General has joined the Manhattan District Attorney.
Days of this president are numbered.
Claims that you campaigned on a Get Trump agenda.
And we will rise up together and we will resist this president. Bring him down.
Stay tuned.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass.
I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president.
We need to focus on Donald Trump. We need to follow his money.
What is fueling my soul right now is Trump.
This illegitimate president. I look forward to going into the office of Attorney General every day, suing him, and then going home.
Our show.
Oh, keep going. This is my new ringtone. Between the Attorney General's civil investigations of Trump and the Manhattan DA's criminal investigation, things could get really legal. I don't want to get too excited, but a girl can dream, can't she? I know you can't tell me anything specific about any of the lawsuits, but can I just sit here and use my imagination to picture the outcomes that I desire? Oh. The deep state. Oh. Yes. And while there's no way to predict where these lawsuits might lead, the Attorney General's office has a pretty good track record.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, we know he's crazy. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. We know he's out of control. We know he's losing it. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
Notice how one of those eyes was going the wrong way? Hey, who's the psycho? Who's the one that's losing their mind? That is not how an attorney general should act. And we've been, like I was saying last night, is that the Overton window has been shifted so much that to us it seems almost in a way that this is normal behavior for an attorney general. The attorney general is not to go out and purposefully prosecute someone or selectively prosecute someone, which is exactly what she's doing. I mean, this is setting a precedence that if the Supreme Court doesn't stop it and she's not sanctioned, then that's it. Because it's the legal system that enforces a crazy law that's put on the books, and it's the law enforcement that does it, and it's the attorney generals that prosecute. So these are the people that actually are out on the streets that are doing these things, that are arresting, that have the arrest authority, prosecutorial authority. And with that, that's how these crazy laws and these crazy things can take place. But there's it's beyond it's not in dispute at all, even by Democrats, unless they're absolutely lunatics that belong in an asylum. It's all agreed that this is politically motivated. In the sense, and because that it is, it has to be stopped, and it's not being stopped. And so that's why I want to talk tonight briefly about lawfare and what it is, so people that are watching can understand what lawfare is. Lawfare is the use of a legal system and institutions to damage or delegitimize an opponent, or to deter an individual's usage of their legal rights. Lawfare is an actual thing. It does exist. Robert Reich, who was in the Clinton administration, he's on Twitter all the time. He spoke in the past about utilizing lawfare. In fact, I mean, he was a lawyer. He gave everyone the suggestion, hey, this is... And Gnarly Gager, yeah, Teflon Don is untouchable. I believe that he's going to get through all these. I was saying that yesterday. I do believe he's going to get through it. I certainly hope that he does. But the going on, the term may refer to the use of the legal system and principles against an enemy, such as by damaging or delegitimizing them, wasting their time and money. This has been mentioned over and over and over again. That what's the point of this? The point is to try and drain him of his time and drain him of his money. Alternatively, it may describe a tactic used by repressive regimes to label and discourage civil society or individuals from claiming their legal rights via national or international legal systems. This is a term that was kind of coined back in the mid-70s, and was more from a kinetic wartime usage when it came to using the law in battle. But it has, I think what a lot of people would agree, that we are in a battle, we are in a civil war. It's not kinetic. But lawfare still serves a very, very powerful purpose, and it is being utilized now. And it is not being paid attention to like it should be. Now, as recently, Thursday or Friday, it looked as if, based on audio within the Supreme Court, that the lawyers, the plaintiffs against Donald Trump were given a tongue lashing by just about every justice on the panel, and rightfully so. So hopefully that's good news. However, Donald Trump has plenty of other cases that he's dealing with. And these lawyers, first of all, these cases have to be dismissed. They have to be thrown out, but that's not good enough. What ends up happening, just like what happened with Justice Kavanaugh, what happens to the accuser? When it's found that the accuser is lying, the accuser does not get punished. And this deal with E. Jean Carroll, nobody believes this one. Nobody believes it. There's just video after video of this person who is just completely insane. Twitter posts back in 2012, 2015 that are just like insane. It's absolutely insane. And then after she wins the millions upon millions of dollars, gets on with both of her lawyers on Rachel Maddow's show and starts joking on how much money she's going to spend and what she's going to spend it on. Like it was all a big joke. Because it was. It was a troll, and it happened to work. Because it was all happening in New York. New York, the New York justice system has to be revamped. Has to be completely torn down and needs to start all over again. But I want to keep harping on this because the legal system is broken badly. And in this article from Reason, Donald Trump is the victim of selective prosecution. I mean, all of this is under the umbrella of prosecutorial misconduct, which again, nobody's talking about. This is a strategy being used that I'm hearing no one discuss. Even people that are in the legal profession. I haven't heard, and not that I listen to him all that much, but Ben Shapiro at Daily Wire, he's a lawyer. I haven't heard him really talk about it all that much, but he is a Trump. He was a never Trumper. But let me read a bit about this, because it's finally someone who was actually a lawyer who wrote this article for Reason, Stephen Calabrese. And he gets into not as much detail as I'd like, but I think at least it brings attention to what's happening to Donald Trump. The U.S. Supreme Court has said that a selective prosecution claim is not a defense on the merits to the criminal charge itself, but an independent assertion that the prosecutor has brought the charge for reasons forbidden by the Constitution, U.S. v. Armstrong. The defendant must prove that the prosecution policy had a discriminatory effect and that it was motivated by a discriminatory purpose. Tyler v. Bowles. Now, I was thinking initially, well, what could be discriminatory? Because it's like, I think immediately of race, that kind of stuff that, of course, Donald Trump would not qualify for. Among the discriminatory purposes which are barred by the selective prosecution doctrine are discrimination involving the Equal Protection Clause and on the basis of race, religion, sex, gender, or political alignment. So that's the key word, political alignment. I think Donald Trump is absolutely right on the merits in the 4 criminal cases which have been brought against him and in the New York State civil fraud case. But I also think that all 5 of these legal cases against Trump are nothing less than a political witch hunt. No shit. I mean, it's just, I think, they are. It's a definite. There's no question about it. That a political witch hunt that is motivated by political ambition in the 2 cases brought respectively by the New York State Attorney General Letitia James and by District Attorney Alvin Bragg. We just saw the video from Letitia James that made it. She basically made every mistake you possibly could to make her look as guilty as possible that this was selective prosecution. But see, this is such a new strategy being used. This was never used before. This is so brand new that I don't even think lawyers understand it. I don't think anyone really truly believes or understands what this is, and that it is a political war-like strategy in order to take Donald Trump off the ballot by using lawfare. So going back to lawfare itself, it's a combination of words of law and warfare. It's thought that the first use of the term lawfare was in a 1975 manuscript, Whitner Goth the Law, which argues that the Western legal system has become overly contentious and utilitarian as compared to the more humanitarian, norm-based Eastern system. It has become utilitarian. A more frequently cited use of the term was Charles J. Dunlap Jr.'s 2001 essay authored for Harvard's Carr Center. In that essay, Dunlap defines lawfare as the use of the law as a weapon of war. He later expanded on the definition, explaining lawfare was the exploitation of real, perceived, or even orchestrated incidents of law of war violations, being employed as an unconventional means of confronting a superior military power. So even back then in the 70s and as early as the early 2000s, it was a term used for more of a kinetic military type of a situation when it came to combat. But the use of it now, just like I said earlier, using the legal system to damage or delegitimize an opponent or deter an individual's usage of their legal rights. So going back to Letitia James, like I said, and Alvin Bragg, we saw what happened yesterday. I showed it yesterday, but last week with his decision to not prosecute or arrest, or he arrested but released without bail the illegal immigrants that beat up the New York City cops. And he is Soros funded, and Soros is in everything. His tentacles are in everything. But Bragg is a Soros funded DA. Letitia James is as well. New York City cops get beat up, and these people get released without bail. They flee. A warrant was, I guess, or they were finally indicted. I don't know if they were picked up yet or not. I don't know if anyone even knows where they are. That's what you're dealing with. Because again, they are funded by a communist Nazi, and The idea is to destroy America. Number one, to let all these criminals out without bail to cause chaos. And then number two, to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't get on the ballot and get in office, because he'll dismantle everything and go back to law and order, and they can't have that. I mean, it's right there out in front of everybody. But for whatever reason, you just keep hearing the same stupid talking points from I heard David Icke used a very, very good term when he was on the Alex Jones show on Friday. And Elon Musk actually came on the show. And he said, he calls them the MAM, mainstream alternative media. And I consider those people, like, unfortunately now, seemingly more like Alex Jones, becoming more mainstream because he's kissing the ass of Elon Musk. But definitely, without question, people like, Ben Shapiro from the Daily Wire, Candace Owens, Tim Pool. These are the people who used to be leftists or anti-Trumpers, and now all of a sudden are on our side, but they get all of the attention and all the money. The mainstream alternative media. So instead of MSM, it's MAM. Trump's First Amendment rights are being stripped away by discriminatory legal actions brought against him because of his political views, in flagrant violation of the First Amendment and the Equal Protection Clause. See, this is where, if lawfare is being used, what is the remedy? And I guess, without being a lawyer or understanding, I don't really think that there is a law that they can use other than a violation of the First Amendment, but how easy or difficult is that to do? Is definitely having his civil rights violated because of his political affiliation. That's why they're doing this. There's no question about it. A New York civil case in which Trump is at risk of being fined $370 million for fraud and being barred from ever doing business in New York State, again, is a victimless crime. And I talked about this yesterday. No bank or lender complained that Trump had defrauded them. And the Democratic State Attorney General's accusation that Trump inflated the value of his assets to get favorable loans is standard practice in the New York real estate market. The banks that loaned Trump the money he borrowed discounted the value of Trump's assets from what he claimed. So they actually said that they were lower than what you say. Just as they do with every other real estate mogul in the New York real estate market. Letitia James brought this civil action because New York State Democrats suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. And that's why they have been successful in New York and Washington, D.C. against the J6 defendants. And James wants to win some future New York Democratic primary. Can you imagine being such a scumbag that you're willing to ruin somebody's life no matter how much you like or dislike them, just for political purposes? That's what we're dealing with. And this is the person who's making decisions on somebody's life or death, how long they're going to spend time in jail. In doing so, James is violating Trump's First Amendment rights and his rights under the Equal Protection Clause. James should have to show that some other New York businessman has been prosecuted for hundreds of millions of dollars and threatened with a ban on doing business in New York for conduct like Trump's. She cannot do that because the politically charged Trump lawsuit she has brought against Trump is one of a kind. Here's proof of that.
You've been doing real estate for decades. Does this case strike you as odd?
Well, let's leave out Trump for a minute, and let's leave out politics and just talk about what happens in real estate development anywhere. So if you're a developer and you've got a building on a block anywhere in America and it's worth, let's say, $500 million, and you want to build a building right beside it, you go to the bank and say, this building is worth $500 million. I'd like to borrow a construction finance loan against this asset, and I want you to tell me it's worth $500 million too. And the bank negotiates with you and says, well, no, we think it's worth $400 million, and you fight it out. You're always trying to show your assets in the brightest light with the sunshine you can possibly determine for them. You want them to be worth the very most, because you're only going to get a 40 or 50% loan to value, as it's called. Then you borrow that money. In the case of a $500 million asset, maybe you get $250 million, and you build a new building with a construction finance loan. And so that's what this case is all about. And by the way, forget about Trump. Every single real estate developer everywhere on earth does this. They always talk about their asset being worth a lot, and the bank says no. And that's just the way it is. So in this case, when I'm trying to figure out, and I'm not pro or con, or I don't care about the politics, who lost money? Nobody. The bank got paid back the construction finance loan, and a new building was built. And if you're going to sue this case and win, you got to sue every real estate developer everywhere. This is all they do. This is what they do all day long, every day. So I don't think this thing will ever survive appeal, regardless of what the fine is. This doesn't even make sense. Now, look, I know Trump's got a lot of problems in other indictments and everything else, but this, if you're a real estate developer, you're watching this, you're saying, what is this? This is ridiculous.
Now, I'm not a fan of this guy, and in that comment at the end that he makes, well, I know he's got a lot of problems in other cases. Knowing that this case is ridiculous on its merit, it's pretty easy to assume, and I think he's smart enough to know that so are the others. But for whatever reason, he has to save his own ass with the scumbags in the mainstream media by saying, I know he's got his problems in the other cases. The other cases are BS as well. They're all illegitimate cases. They're all malicious prosecution and selective prosecution. It is all prosecutorial misconduct, every single one of them. Stephen Calabresi goes on. Alvin Bragg's indictment of Trump for paying hush money to Stormy Daniels and not reporting it as campaign expenditures also a case of selective prosecution. John Edwards, you remember him, the vice presidential running mate along with John Kerry in 2004, had used more than $1 million in campaign money to hide his very own illegitimate affair. Edwards' case led to the U.S. Justice Department adopting guidelines against bringing charges about the use of campaign funds to cover up sexual affairs. If John Edwards gets off, then Donald Trump should too. This is another case of selective prosecution based on Trump's political views to go after him so Alvin Bragg can win a Democratic primary in New York for some higher elective office. So that Alvin Bragg case, again, I don't understand how it is that there aren't more are there legal scholars out there? Are there lawyers with half a brain that can come out and talk about this more? There are all these other things that are being brought up, and this is it. It is that simple. This stuff it's not rocket science. The criminal federal classified document case. Here's another one. This is one of the this all came about last week. The biggest joke of them all. I mean, they're all incredible jokes. But this one, brought in Florida by Jack Smith is yet another travesty of unequal justice based on party affiliation in violation of the First Amendment and the Equal Protection Clause. For years, Barack Obama knew that Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, had an insecure personal computer at her home, which she was illegally using to store and exchange highly classified top secret information. Neither Obama nor his Attorney General Loretta Lynch chose to prosecute Clinton for these violations of the criminal law. Most recently, this was last week, President Joe Biden was excused from prosecution for violations of the law concerning classified documents stored in one's house. Remember, he was too old, so they're not going to prosecute him. Hillary Clinton, yes, what she did was illegal and it was careless and everything about it was wrong. But we don't think any reasonable AG is going to prosecute. Two-tier justice system for years and years and years. Donald Trump, however, does get prosecuted for mishandling classified documents. This is a blatant double standard for Republicans and Democrats on handling classified information. And it's not a double standard for Republicans and Democrats. It's not even a party thing anymore. It is all about Donald Trump. If it was any other Republican, this wouldn't be happening. It just wouldn't be happening. So, the other case, before I get into that, the January 6th case, 2021 indictments of Donald Trump are also blatantly unfair. To begin with, Jack Smith is an unconstitutionally appointed special counsel for reasons I point out in my law review. All Trump did on January 6, 2021 was to give his followers a fiery speech and urge them to fight like hell. Trump never, and it's on video. This isn't in dispute. These are people just making stuff up. He's on video. Urging his followers, he never urged his followers to disrupt the counting of the electoral votes from each state. Trump had a First Amendment right to give the speech he gave on the ellipse, and he is again the victim of selective prosecution. He never said storm the Capitol. He never said any of that stuff. Instead, he said go home, be peaceful. As for the Georgia case, Fatty Willis is angling to win a future Democratic primary by going after Donald Trump over a phone call in which Trump exercises First Amendment rights to ask if more Trump votes could be found in Georgia. This is, again, selective prosecution of Trump by a Democratic prosecutor in violation of Equal Protection Clause. How many people have said, hey, is there anything that we can do to find more votes? Not illegally, just maybe we missed something. Things are so close that maybe we could find more votes somewhere. But everybody's so surface that it's all they do is they talk about, all the left does is, look, Donald Trump is under 97,000 million trillion indictments. He's not fit to be president. They know nothing about the cases. And this is what the left counts on. They count on the stupidity. They count on the laziness. They count on them being uninformed to the nth degree. They count on them not eventually informing themselves. And they count on the continuation of them dumbing down society, dumbing down our kids in college, dumbing them down with the Super Bowl. Hey, look at Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. They're like dating and stuff. Meanwhile, she flies in on a private jet that not far off from the size of Donald Trump's jet. But at the same time telling everybody else how terrible they are for their carbon footprint. So this lawyer continues to say, in my 34 years as a law professor, I've repeatedly seen the rules in legal academia bent dramatically to favor liberals over conservatives. Isn't everything that way? Isn't the God-fearing people, the ones who are the productive members of society, the creative members of society, the ones who go out and work every day? Aren't those the people that pay their bills, that go out and get the health insurance when they're not sick, instead of when they do get sick? And then isn't the middle class, isn't we're the ones where everything goes the opposite direction? I thus identify with what Trump is going through in terms of selective prosecution. Trump's First Amendment and Equal Protection Clause rights are being flagrantly violated, and the U.S. Supreme Court should put an end to this charade now. And we can only hope that that's what happens. That the Supreme Court puts an end to it and says, that's it, we're done, no more. So yeah, here's Taylor Swift coming on in. It's amazing how much you had to sell your soul in order to get that. Shut up. And here's now Joe Biden did not do the pre-Super Bowl interview. We all know why. I'm sure I don't have to say why, because the guy can't put two words together. But listen to this.
The Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. You know, when buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drinks bottles are smaller. A bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging you just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now.
So how are we going to do that? He's not going to do anything about it. So how many of us have dealt with shrinkflation in our lives? It's only getting worse. And here's Biden deciding that he's going to do a video before the Super Bowl to tell us about shrinkflation. And I even saw one of his minions that they pay to promote this stuff talk about it, or retweet this and say, look what Biden's doing about it. He's not going to do anything about it. He's not going to do a damn thing about it. How many people are watching the Super Bowl? 69% over 30. I think we all figured that. And then I'm going to leave you with this one last story, and I'm going to call it a night. Remember the kid that was called out by this guy over here, Karen Phillips from Deadspin? And you notice that his tweets are protected now. This lowlife took a picture that this kid had black face and red face on either side because he's a fan of the Chiefs, and essentially made this kid out to be a racist. Well, he is...
What do you got to say, buddy?
He's going to the Super Bowl.
How about that? He's going to the Super Bowl.
What's the game day prediction? Is it still the same?
What's that?
31-28.
31-28.
Still the same.
All right, let's see how you fare against these. A lot of people get paid a lot of money to try to figure that out. Let's see how close you are, bud.
Golden Holden. Take it to the bank, folks. You heard it here first. 2 days in a row. He's maintaining the prediction. Young Warrior has got a line on the game. So
let's see your touchdown dance, bud. Yeah. Let's see that chop. Let's see that chop. There it is. There it is.
That's the one, buddy.
That's great to see this kid get his just desserts, and hopefully he wins a lot of money. Apparently filed a complaint against Deadspin and that reporter, that dirtbag reporter, Karen Phillips. So hopefully this kid becomes a multi-millionaire. But good for him. That's a positive thing related to the Super Bowl, and I'm going to end it on that. So thank you all for showing up tonight. I appreciate it on a Super Bowl Sunday of all days. Figured it'd be probably a pretty quiet night, but those of you who came out, thank you. Bethany, thank you for being the moderator again tonight. I appreciate it, and see you all next weekend.